Today we have Juan Campos, and Juan's got an amazing story. He's also got a business partner, Eva Rader. And Juan and Eva own a LinkedIn business, and they get leads for people on LinkedIn. They do content for people on LinkedIn, and they work with some great names. And you guys have just killed it over the past, I think, 11 months now working together on this business. We've worked a little bit on some other things before that, but this is the one that's really been a huge smash hit. And first of all, congratulations on all your guys' success.
Thank you.
Know, I get so stoked when we message each other back and forth about all the wins and all the growth, because it's just been crazy. I want to let you guys know, Juan and Eva have basically gone from zero, totally new business ideation, to I think $65K a month last month. And it's just been really consistent growth all the way up every single month. You know, there's been a couple of pauses there just because of the business model they have. But really, overall, it's just been huge growth, and it's monthly recurring revenue. Yeah. So they're making that money every single month. It's not, they didn't do a launch or anything. This is a really consistent business. They got a team. They have everything now. So congrats on that. Really, really stoked about it. And so I want to bring you on here. I want to talk to you about some of the pitfalls you ran into, some of the mindset shifts you've had through our work together and just through business in general. And hear a little bit more about your story, because you got such a great story. I think it'd be really valuable for people. So I think where we can kind of get started here is just, you know, tell us a little bit about where you got started with it 11 months ago with this business. Where were you before that? What were you doing? What was that like? And kind of how did you do the transition there?
Yeah, no, that's so good. So thanks so much for inviting us. I'm inviting me to come lecture my story, because I'm like really excited about what we've been doing together, and then obviously like your business and everything that you're doing, Ross, is so awesome. And any opportunity that I get to like share with people how awesome it is to work with you, I really am happy to do that.
Of course.
I would say, yeah, totally. Like I would say, let's see, at a high level. So my background is in growth hacking and customer acquisition. I've been doing that for I would say 10 years now. I wasn't calling it that at the beginning, but like now in retrospect, like it's always been growth hacking. And I had some really cool wins in my career related to that world. But what I hated is that I could not possibly scale my time. Like I could have maybe 4 clients at a time. And these were really cool clients. Like on the high end of things, we're in San Francisco, so it's all like venture capital, startup-y, like tech world. But on the high end of things, they had raised like $100 million, like cool stuff. On the low end, they had raised like 100K, and they were like getting their first customers. And so here I am sitting with like some cool victories. And I thought my career was just going to be that for forever, but I could not ever have more than maybe like 4 or 5 clients. And we were making, I think at the time, like less than 30K for sure. It was like 20 something. Some months it would be less than that. Some months it would be higher, but like somewhere around there. But I hated it because I couldn't scale my time. So when I met you, I had like the biggest mindset shift in the world around having a productized service and actually scaling the agency by having like a defined scope of work. It's always the same scope of work. And so it's much easier for us to build systems, train people, hire, scale, and just like skyrocket. So I would say, that's essentially my story in a nutshell. Like started with growth, started consulting, could not scale that, redid the entire thing, like took that down to like the studs, reanalyzed the entire business, my thought process, our mindset, everything. And and then we were able to grow it together, like you said, in the last like 11 months to the scale that it is now.
And so tell me a little bit about like, you know, the whole growth hacking thing, just to give people some context. So from the way that I saw it, it was really hard consulting. It was a lot of like, you were doing it. It was almost like a job in a way. Yeah. It was like you had clients, but it was really like almost working for the clients rather than the way that it is now, where it's like you have your own clients and it's your business. It was almost like you were kind of a cog in someone else's business. Yeah, and definitely. There was a lot of like getting pushed around and people overstepping, and it really was like you had multiple jobs.
Yeah. It was like working like 4 different shifts actually. And like now in retrospect, like seeing business how I see it now, like that actually wasn't a business at all. Not really. Like we were registered as a business. We like thought we had a website. We thought it was a business, and it like couldn't have possibly been further from like how I would define a business to be now. And like the way that we operate things now, I actually get to spend a lot more time like doing proper like CEO work, like actually working this is like so cliche, but like working on the business instead of in the business. Like I get to actually spend time scaling the company, working on operations, working on like things at the systems level, rather than like what you were saying before, like if someone wanted me in a meeting, I'd be like, basically had to be there. If they wanted like a special thing, then I basically had to do it. There was no way around it.
It was almost like you took a shift from being like more of a generalist to like really specializing and like owning a specific thing.
Totally.
Like, you were a growth hacker, which was like, you know, for anyone watching this, it basically just means someone who's a badass at hacking things together and making things work. And it could mean related to anything. And you're very good at that. But it was like this ultimate jack of all trades type thing, which I think ultimately almost became a trap for you because you could do so many things. There were so many opportunities, which I think a lot of people face today. You know, I was telling someone the other day, it's not a problem of, you know, the problem today is almost like there's too many options and they're all so great sounding. There's so many mentors, there's so many coaches, there's so many programs, so many opportunities. It's like, man, like, it's almost impossible to choose. And then, so then when you start sticking your hand in all the cookie jars, that's when you get trapped.
Yeah.
Then you realize, oh my God, I don't have any more time. And that was one of the huge problems. I remember when you guys first started working with me, I think you guys were up until like 12 o'clock at night working sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Monday through Sunday, every week of every month of every year. Yeah. It was super hard to get out of. Yeah. And yeah, like you said, like back then we were doing, and we actually thought that was somehow like a strength. And now I've like really grown to like resent, like to squash every thought that I have that's like that. But then also like when I see it in other people, I'm like, yikes, dude, like I would not want your life at all. And it doesn't matter if Google's your client, like we did get to work with some really cool names, but just it like nothing makes up for the kind of trap that you're in. It really doesn't. That
ultimately also became a trap for you guys too. I know you guys, look, for people who are watching this, Juan, Eva are great connectors. They are amazing with the relationships. They get plugged in different places. They live in the right place. You know, they go to the right events, they meet the right people. It's just a strength of theirs. It's just one of the things they've always done. They've always been good at it. And so they're getting invited sometimes to speak for free sometimes, or maybe a couple bucks down to, I think it was like the president of Venezuela or like some of these big name people where it was like, wow, like Google, like the president of Venezuela. And it was, but then ultimately when you added them all up, you didn't get a lot at the end of the day. And so it was almost like this, it was like a honeypot. It was like you got sucked in with this celebrity character or brand or whatever it was, which is so cool. But then ultimately it was like this dead end where you did it for a year and you were still in the same spot. And so tell people like so that was kind of like how things were in the past. But what were things like when you started to make that shift? Because one of the things I noticed was, you know, when we worked together, we talked about these things and it took a little bit of time to really understand the focus and, you know, becoming a specialist and really learning how to say no.
Yeah.
Some of these things that appeared to be like great opportunities, but really prevented you from getting to your goals long-term, which I think so many people get sucked into. Saying no is a definite skill that must be trained. But what was that mindset shift? And when you started work on the LinkedIn thing, how did you get into that? And what is the LinkedIn thing? What are you doing now?
So I would say there are like different personalities that all have, this is the way that I think about it. Like everyone's personality has like strengths and weaknesses. And I think a lot of people try to tackle business in terms of just like doubling down on their strengths and just like being really, really good at those things. And that's just going to be like the road to success. And I would say that's a really, really good road for being successful if that's what you want to do. If that's how you would define yourself, it's like you being true to yourself, then awesome. But if how you define success is you like growing a business, then that is more like science than art. And then you can't just be like, well, I'm just going to do this because that's just like what I like doing. And it's like, well, it doesn't really matter what you like doing in business. And in a lot of ways, you have to sacrifice something. It's either going to be your dreams or like a part of you, of like what you think is you. And the best like way that I've been able to like just consolidate this in my own head and is to basically realize that I need to redefine how I see myself. And the way that I see myself now is much more, let's say, moldable than at the beginning. I was just like, oh no, that's not me. And now I'm like, what even is me? Like, what a weird concept. Like why? Yeah. So like definitely like that, the whole thing of like what got you here won't get you there. Like, I think I had certain habits that got me where I was. And I thought that those habits, if I just like scaled them, would get me where I wanted to go in terms of like having a company that whatever, $1 million in revenue or 10 million or whatever, like whatever I thought I wanted, I like actually couldn't even tell you. I don't, cause well, for one, I didn't have that kind of clarity, but whatever I thought I wanted, I wasn't thinking about it in terms of like, okay, what, like, this is where I want to be. This is where I am. What about myself do I need to chip at until it's just gone or like totally change? And then I'm just the kind of person that like can't help but get those results. It's like, of course you're going to get those results if you have all of these habits. So for me, that was a huge mindset shift in terms of realizing that I would so much rather sacrifice these things that I thought were me rather than sacrifice the dreams. And then making that non-negotiable made this other thing like, whatever, like what do I need to change? Oh, you need to be more focused. Great. I'll do that. Oh, you need to just pick a thing. Awesome. Like not a big deal. Oh, you need to like, so yeah, for me, like saying yes was, or like learning how to say no was definitely a hard thing for me. Someone else might listen to this video and they're like, oh, I don't struggle with that at all. Great. But guess what? You probably struggle with something else. You probably struggle, like what I've learned, like the polar opposite of my personality, because I tend to be very energetic and like move really quickly. Like the polar opposite, they're like so slow, they'll be thinking about how they're going to start the business for like 5 years and then they'll never do it. So they can look at me and they're like, scoreboard, I don't make mistakes. And I'm like, scoreboard, I do. And it goes somewhere. So the answer is somewhere in the middle where like you do move quickly, but also you like move methodically. And then that's how you start unlocking these like superhuman powers where it's like, you want to get yourself to a point where it's like, guess what? I can do both. Like I can plan and not make mistakes and move quickly and do sales, but also like stay focused and like be introvert. It's like, like the moment that you can get yourself where it's like, I can do all of them. You're like in really like superhuman status and you don't have any kind of like non-negotiables around. Like I would never, do 10 sales in one day. I would never, for me, stay focused. I would never turn down the president asking me to go and speak in like Turkey and like, yeah, all the, like what you were talking about in Costa Rica. I would have thought I would never turn that down. Now I'm like, of course I'm going to turn that down because it's not a piece that gets me to where I need to be now. So yeah, that was like a huge mindset shift for me. And I would attribute that like almost entirely to the work that we did together because that was something you were telling us from day one.
Totally. And it's like, just for people listening to this, if I could just wrap up what you're saying and put a bow on it, it's like the big shift here is that you didn't have a clearly defined goal, really, like what you said it wasn't super crystal clear. And so because you didn't have that crystal clear goal, it was very hard to make decisions about what fit into the goal because it was every decision that came at you, you're like, well, this is cool. So I'm going to fit it into but you weren't like 7-figure LinkedIn business. Right. And someone was like, I need you to speak in whatever, Costa Rica or whatever. And you're like, I don't know how that's going to get me more clients for my LinkedIn business. So the answer is no. And also because you set this goal, you were able to say, okay, the person I am right now actually probably isn't capable of achieving that. Who do I need to be? And coming to the realization of asking yourself, like, not necessarily asking who am I, but more asking like, who do I need to become? And what traits and characteristics do I need to adopt? You need to become a new person. I think that's a huge lesson for everyone here because the idea of yourself is the biggest myth in life and in business. There is no you. People tell you to be authentic. They tell you to be yourself and everything like that. And it's because they don't want you to change. But really, change and evolution is the number one thing that is required for you to go from where you are to where you're going to be. I mean, like, it's like if you ask anyone this, they know straight off the top of their head. It's like, do you think you're going to be the same person you are right now when you make $10 million a year? The answer is definitely no. And so, but people don't ask themselves that question. And then they don't ask themselves, well, wait, if that's true, then who is that person and what do they look like? And how can I start becoming more like them?
Yeah, totally. This was like one of the biggest mindset shifts that I did. And then now that I see the world this way, I'm so like unafraid of starting over if I need, like if like right now, as of this recording, like with COVID happening, that totally dipped our business for a while, but then we pivoted and then we grew. And right now we're like bigger than we ever have been. And it was because we like had that operating system running under everything, which is just like, there is no me that is 10 million. That's a $10 million me, $100 million me. It's a just completely different person. So yeah, I mean, this whole concept really, really has a lot of implications. It basically means anything that you think it means. Like, yes, it probably means that the $10 million you is not going to be getting drunk every night. It's not going to be playing video games every night. Like all of a sudden you do have time to work out because guess what? That's what you're doing. Because guess what? Saturday morning, 5 a.m., you also have friends that are also down to go on a jog and on a hike. And like, it's literally a different you. Like if I audit who I am now than who I was a year ago, it's a completely different person. If I just like wrote down like my daily habits or my weekly habits, you would think it's completely different people. And that wasn't because of circumstance or anything. That was completely by design. It's like, it's exactly this, like, who do I need to become? Yeah, it was 100% intentional. And already now, that's how I know that I'm not going to like slow down either, because already now I'm already reinventing myself to be the next person that I need to be. So there's a lot of peace that comes with that. And I wasn't thinking like that like a year ago, 5 years ago, for sure not 10 years ago, forget it.
Well, what I think is so wild too is like, you probably didn't even think you had any mindset shit, which is like what so many people, I mean, maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but so many people, they think that they go, oh no, my mindset's like great. And it's,
right. Dude, definitely.
They're like, I'm great.
Yeah.
I don't need that. Dude, I just need the strategy.
Right.
I started working with a new person I think it was like 7 weeks ago. Dude's made like $30,000 in the past 7 weeks. Before that, he was only making like $2,000 a month. He just blew up. And it's because I gave him this mindset course that I developed. And he's like, man, I'm starting to realize like stuff in my marriage. I'm starting to show up different. My wife is talking to me different.
Yeah.
Like my wife is like, what's gotten into you? Like, you're like going on a run every morning now. And he's doing yoga at 5:30.
That's so cool. Yeah.
He's like, man, I'm homeschooling my kids 2 days a week too. Like on top of this, and I'm still able to like outperform. Like, and he's like, I'm a completely different person. And it's like, he's like, I had no idea that really what I needed help with was the mindset. On the call, before I started working with him, he told me, he goes, I know it's not mindset. I just need someone to kick my ass. I just need to get some sales in. Once we shifted his mindset, it just like shifted everything,
I would venture to say it's like only mindset problems. Like the tactics, like I am shocked by how little it's tactics. Like you and I spend almost like no time talking about tactics. And like anytime that we do a session, you're like, oh, just do this. And it's like, oh, okay, really? It's like, yeah, okay. Like, I guess it just is that. Like, there's nothing else to talk about. But the mindset stuff will really shake you. And that actually is what it is, yeah.
Because there's so much, like, it's almost like you're culturally conditioned to be poor and fail. It's like society, like it conditions you. It's like, just be yourself, be yourself, be yourself.
Yeah.
Everyone's heard that. Man, stick to your roots. Like, be authentic. Like this whole authenticity movement. It's like, you're like, I just want to post on Instagram, but I just want to be authentic. And, reaching out to direct messages with people and trying to make sales. Dude, that's not authentic. I can't do that. It's like,
what will people think?
It's like, it's not anything. You're putting that meaning on it. And like, what does being authentic even mean?
Yeah.
I mean, if being authentic is doing what you've always done and doing what you're doing right now, that's not working.
Right. So, yeah. Like just think about the implications. Like if you only keep doing what you've been doing, then you're only going to keep getting the results that you have been getting. So if you're like, oh, I'm just not the kind of person that works out every day. I'm totally fine just like not eating healthy or what, like if you're that kind of person, then you're just going to keep getting whatever those results are. Both in like it shows up in your work. It shows up in how you generate leads. It gets so much worse in your sales calls, how you hold yourself, like the copy you write. It will infiltrate every single aspect of your life. If you're just the kind of person that's like, if you're basically like settling in different areas of your life, like you're settling in areas of your business too. You may not realize it, but if you're like, oh, it's fine for me to XYZ, then you're doing that in your business too. And yeah, this like really, really affected us. And I can definitely say I'm a changed person.
And so what do you think is working for you really well in your business right now? Like, well, for one thing I know, you might have some other things, but one thing I know is you're like really focused on the delivery of it, right? So you're delivering really high quality service. I believe you're also charging high ticket. Tell me a little bit about some of the things that are working for you.
So let me understand your question really well. You want to know like what are the most high impact changes that we made, like related to the business specifically? Okay.
Yeah, what's helping you make all this money? Like, what are some of the things you're doing that's working really well right now?
Oh, okay. Wow, yeah. This is actually going to be fun. So like one of the main things that we changed is we actually have a productized service. So you got us excited about this book, Built to Sell by John Warrillow, and that book. Yeah. And so like, that's our operating system now in terms of having like the kind of agency that has specifics, like for anyone that hasn't read it yet. I won't spoil the story. It is written as a story, not as a business book. So it's like, it's a proper like, it's a story.
It's a dialogue, kind of. It's almost like
dialogue. Yeah.
Fly on the wall when someone's getting mentored. And just for anyone who's watching this, who doesn't know what productizing the service means, it basically means you have a methodology. Like you have a very specific process that you bring every single person through, and it's like your method that you own.
Yeah, exactly. So that was a really big one for us. Is before we thought we would sell whatever it was that the market was buying. So if like someone asked us, like, do you do Facebook ads? We'd be like, sure. Do you do landing pages? Of course. Can you do a podcast? Definitely. Like as long as the price was right, we would do like whatever. And yeah, so that really changed. And so now we go out to the market and we have talked to so many clients that we're actually really confident about what it is that we're offering. It's not like we locked ourselves in a room either and just came up with something and then try to take it to market. We like, with your help, like went through a process of understanding what the market was buying like at scale and understanding who our buyer persona was really, really well and what it was that what their like current state was, their desired outcome, and then just how we could agitate that like in between condition. And create a process, a methodology that gets people from A to B, essentially. And so, yeah, for us, it's generating leads through LinkedIn content. I think by now we are the largest reaching in the world at what we do, which is really, really specific. It's really niche. And in a lot of ways, it's almost like we're creating a market category for just that, because it's like, I couldn't even tell you 10 people that do what we do. So that was a really big change for us. It's just like seeing the world through that paradigm is different. Like we basically don't have competitors. We don't have any problems onboarding people. It's like so seamless. Like we get a new client, we always have the exact same process. So when we train people, now that we have very specific documentation, it's like we're like the Ford factory of our industry. Like we can hire someone like basically like off the street and have them working in the plant in production, helping us scale within a week. I couldn't have done that before. Like before, I've tried hiring people before. I would have had to train them for like 6 months. It would have had to be like an apprenticeship for me to feel like they're at a point that I can like delegate something to them. The way that it is now is like if in, let's say 6 months, like we are set up in a way that we could triple our client load over the next 6 months. And it wouldn't just like break everything, because all it means is hiring like X amount of people for Y amount of clients. And then we already have the processes, the documentation. There's like a way we onboard the client. There's a specific way that we fulfill it. There's a specific end result that they're trying to get. It's really like, yes or no, are we reaching that? And if not, we have like a way to diagnose and then dedicated processes to the troubleshoot. It's just like all of that is different. I would say productizing the service, it was one of the biggest different.
Well, let me interject here too for a second, sure. And let's just clarify something. So you're actually charging, I think, $1,500 to $3,000 a month. That's the price range for the product, and you're able to do that. And one of the things I heard in there that I want to pull out for people is you're able to do that because you're solving a real problem.
Yeah.
And over the course of us working together, I know you started out in the content space, and it was really getting people a lot of reach on LinkedIn. And through listening to your customers, the business has evolved and it's become even more and more and more valuable, which is something that I think is a big factor in the reason why you guys are growing the way that you're growing, which is that you're listening to your customers, you're iterating, which is not something I see people doing a lot in business. They kind of just develop a course, they develop a coaching program, and they just like throw it out there, and they're not really like, how do I always make it better? And so what I thought was really cool about what you guys are doing is you started with the content, which you guys are definitely, as far as I know, the best like on earth at that thing. And then what's cool though, is you guys have shifted after listening to your clients into like really focusing on the lead gen, which is even more valuable, we discovered. And so being able to, and now you're going to be charging more money, and you're going to be making even more money. And in fact, because you made that change, it sounds like, I know you onboarded like 20 new clients like in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
It was because of this shift, because of the results you guys have been able to get. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So this was like a huge change for us. Let me share like maybe one or two more that are super high impact. Oh, here's one. So our ability to focus, we've kind of touched on this, but I want to just highlight it from a business standpoint, because it's like, oh, that's great. Juan has evolved as a person. Like that, I would not have that be the takeaway from this video. It's like,
well, people probably don't understand the implications of that. If they did it, like if they did my training, they probably would. But it's a large topic to explain and understand that it probably is the most important thing in life and business.
Yeah. And I can definitely say I was the worst of them. Like if you were to put this like on a spectrum of like people that have like any tendency to like be focused or be like super, shiny object, I was like on the extreme side of shiny object. So whatever gap you have to make, I'm talking about like any viewer, like whatever gap you have to make, it was less of a gap than the one that I had to make in my own personality, like figuring this out. But yeah, like focus. I don't want to, I'm going to kind of like mimic how I would think, but I'm not like judging anyone that thinks this way. It's just like when I think of like my competitors that are thinking of 20 different strategies for acquiring customers, I'm just like, dang, that sucks. Like what, like why the heck would they do that? They're going to do YouTube. They're going to do Facebook. They're going to do Twitter. They're going to do Instagram. They're going to be posting every day. They're going to be a social media manager. They're going to try to do SEO. They'll do Google ads. They're going to run themselves crazy off of just the growth part of their business. Forget like fulfillment, because they're not going to be fulfilling on their clients. Forget actually improving the business, validating, and then amplify that problem to all of the other areas. Like no wonder entrepreneurs think entrepreneurship is so freaking difficult, because of course, if that's how you're approaching it, dude, there's not enough hours in the day. Of course there isn't. So if someone's like, oh, being an entrepreneur, it's just so hard. I work 100 hours a week and I just like can't make any progress. It's like, I know, I've been there. Like I get that. Also, you're like 5 minutes away from a fix if you are just willing to sacrifice what you think is you. Like you approaching business in that sense is the roadblock between where you are and what you want to be. It's just the fact that you want to not be focused. And if you just for 2 seconds remove that, and it's like, okay, more than anything, I want to be focused. 3, 2, 1, boom, I'm just going to be a focused person from now on. Getting the tactics, like what we were saying earlier, it's going to take you like 5 minutes. It's like, okay, fine. You made the mind, the mind change. What do you need next? Okay, I need one customer acquisition strategy, one product, one process for like reiterating and relearning from your customers, one payment method, like one landing page. You just need like one of each, and there's like 30 things to collect. So just collect that. It's like Pokemon, like get all 30 of them, and then there you go. You're like done. And then like keep scaling, and yeah, there's always going to be new ones. And so like that's also like the value that I see in like keep working together, Ross, is like there's always like new challenges to overcome, and there's always that one thing. So like, where we are now, maybe that one thing is like, oh, we're like struggling with this like payroll situation. So like, what's that one solution for that? Hiring people in California. But then getting the answer is like pretty quick. And then it's like, okay, now on to the next problem. It's like, oh, how do we get from 10 employees to 30 employees? And then that one solution, it actually gets really, really quick. So we don't actually spend that much time working together, I feel like, considering the impact that we're able to have, which is, I think, part of it attributed to like, to the work that you do, but then also attributed to like this, how important it is to make this mindset shift and just like realize that focus will remove 90% of your problems probably. That's actually being conservative. I would say even higher than that.
This is music to my ears after working together, because I totally agree.
Yeah.
You guys were definitely distracted, and you're so focused now, and it's so great. You're like, dude, I'm not even interested. Like, I got invited to like 3 things this week. I don't give a shit. And it's so great.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think is so funny, it's not funny because it's a struggle for people, but people overcomplicate everything. It's like if you gave someone a simple roadmap, it's like they would be more likely to fuck it up than if you gave them a complicated one. And it's really interesting because, something that happens like, so I have an inner circle group. I know we work together a little bit one-on-one, but I have this inner circle group, and in there, I lay out a really specific learning path for people to execute. And it's exactly what you said. It's basically one customer acquisition strategy. We focus on it, we get it dialed in, we optimize it, we make sure it works better and better and better. And then, eventually when they're making, 10, 20 grand a month, we can start adding in some other channels for traffic and different things like that. But there's really no point until the first one is super lubricated to the point where you could just hire an assistant to take over the process for you. Totally. And you don't have to do it anymore. And it's so funny because they tell me all the time in our group, they're like, what else should I be doing with my day? I'm thinking about getting on YouTube or getting on podcasts. I'm like, no, you're fucking it up. And they're like, I don't understand though. It's only like 3 hours of work per day. Like, really do this. Like, what else? I'm like, dude, like scaling, like making money is not about doing more.
Right.
That's where things get so confusing for people. It's like, it really isn't about doing more. And I'm like, dude, go to the gym, go spend time living your life. And they're like, I don't understand. Now entrepreneurs aren't supposed to have a life. And I'm like, no, dude, those people are fucking it up. Like, you get on social media, you implement this marketing strategy, and then they're like, what about all my other time? And I'm like, well, hopefully, once we really get this thing going, all that other time will be spent fulfilling clients and scaling. And it's like, you can take a marketing strategy, implement that one strategy, and just drive more and more and more and more traffic to scale it. It doesn't have to be more channels. It doesn't have to be more social media platforms, more activities. That's where it gets so wild. And I'm like, I just love to hear that, that it's so easy for you guys to say no to certain things now, Now you could say yes to some of these huge things that happen.
Yeah, that's also been huge is, there's a lot of people that say that the only thing that money can't buy is time. Like, no matter how rich a person was, they could have never bought more time. And I have like a little bit of a contrarian perspective on this that we've like also learned through this experience together, is that you absolutely can buy your time back. And you don't need to sell time to then buy the time. You literally just sell value, and then you buy, like, you're able to have like 10 lifetimes in just one lifetime. Like, then carve out the time for you to, learn how to play 5 instruments, learn how to like travel the world, speak 5 languages. You can certainly buy back the time, and then be healthy, work out. It's what we're doing now.
You're taking singing lessons. What do you
do? Literally, literally. Like so like now in COVID, we like do a bunch of Zoom lessons to learn you guys learning Russian, Chinese. I'm learning, I'm learning how to code. I'm learning how to play guitar. I'm learning how to sing. And I'm learning, what's the other class? I know I'm missing one, but we're just like, it's not even that we're messing around. We're just,
dude, we have more time. You're making 65 grand a month. You're making the most money ever. And you're doing singing lessons, taking Chinese classes, taking Russian.
Yeah.
It's wild. It's completely, the last business that you were working on, this was never possible.
100 hours a week, literally 100 hours a week, every single week for every month for years. That's what I was doing. Like, nobody was working as hard as we were working. Nobody. And and now we get to like live just with more like wholehearted excellence, just like approach our life with more, just not be as one-dimensional in terms of like, before I sacrificed everything just for business. Now I'm able to like explore all these other areas of my personality, which has been great, and just life. And it's so worth it. So I think a lot of people might have the tendency to overcomplicate it or be like, oh, Ross said do this on Google Sheets. He probably means do it on Asana and set up automations and like do it on Zapier. And it's like, no, he literally means on Google Sheets. Like literally, like wait until you have $5 million and all of this time and then start messing around with the Asana integrations. But just don't at the beginning. There's absolutely no need. You can totally get to $1 million without 19 steps to your ManyChat funnel and like all of these things. Like, you just don't need to complicate it. Just run the recipe of the cake exactly as it's designed. And that, how's that for like a change in mindset? Like, there absolutely is like a science to growing the business. And I would have thought that, oh yeah, man, it's just like your opinion, man. Like, it's so not. It's like, if you pick something that is a really big pain point and you start high ticket, which is kind of our story, for an industry that is more than happy to pay for that because the value that they're getting for it far exceeds the money that they're spending. And you're focused all the way across, and you always have the same scope, always have the same process for acquiring the customers, the same everything. you can just scale. I don't know. I'll probably have to relearn all of this to then get to like 10 million or 100 million or whatever. But as far as I'm concerned right now, we're just like running that operating system and cruising it all the way to like, we're hoping to still get 100K in MRR this year, even with COVID and everything. So
we'll definitely hit that. No question about it. I'm for sure on that. Like the trajectory you guys have is definitely that's gonna happen. And also one thing that's really cool about your business, which is just not common for a lot of people. You know, a lot of people talk about revenue. Oh my God, he's making 65 grand a month. It's like,
right.
yeah, but what's the profit? You guys have crazy profit. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You guys are putting tons of money away every single month in the bank, which not a lot of people are doing, especially during coronavirus, everything that's going on right now. I mean, we're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
I mean, they just shut down like 44 states yesterday. So it's not like the coronavirus was 3 months ago. It's like, it's happening, and you guys are growing exponentially. And so I guess I want to wrap up this kind of interview with a couple more things. I want to know what advice would you give, or what would be like a big shift you think that you could share with someone who's just starting their business? Maybe they haven't hit 10K a month yet, or maybe some lessons you would share with yourself earlier on that would have helped you now. What would be a couple big takeaways you think, besides just what we already talked about?
Sure. Yeah. I think the ones that I would have told myself are the ones that we already talked about, but to someone new, I would say like, and this kind of is a plug, and I know that you're not asking me to do this, but like, here, let me put it this way. You don't have to work with Ross. You don't. But I would be, like, the burden of proof is on you to tell me why you would want to reinvent getting to 7 figures. Like, why would you want to invent that? It's already been done. Like, it's cracked. Like, here, like, being president of the United States, there's only one person that can have that job. But being a millionaire, there's like so many people. Like in California, there's like 800,000 millionaires. Like the other day we were looking at the numbers. There's like millions of millionaires in the US alone. Like, it's way harder to be, I don't know, put it in the same level of difficulty probably as, I don't know, maybe getting a doctorate or a master's or something like that. Like, it's completely achievable. There is a paved path. It is like paint by the dots, more or less. And again, you don't have to work with Ross, but just like work with someone that can tell you, that has a proven process for how they do it, not someone that has just done it and has never been able to replicate it. Like, if they haven't been able to replicate it, then you don't want to learn from them, because they're probably going to learn on you whether or not they can copy paste that, if they actually have a template. But someone that's like, oh yeah, I've done it. I've helped a bunch of people do it. This is exactly how you do it. Just like run that, and then $1 million later, look back and be like, okay, do I want to keep doing this? Do I want to like not be in business, whatever? But like, just, I would recommend do it like that, and do it from someone, to your point about the profit. Like, we are only not more profitable because we artificially keep ourselves under less profit, basically, because we are growing and we're pivoting, and like COVID is happening and all of this. But even with that, we're scaling. Yeah. Even with that, like to your point, last month we were like over 60% profitable. And that's like artificially not trying to drive profit. Like, we could just, fire the whatever people, like get rid of the whatever strategies, and then just like build that cash pile up. But we're not doing that on purpose. And yeah, so do it from someone don't do it from the guy that has like 19 logos that they're like, oh, I'm working with all these awesome companies, and I also don't have a life, and I'm working 100 hours a week, and I have like a huge team, and what we sell is super high ticket, because those people are workaholics and they have not been able to scale out their time. So unless you want to replicate that life, then do not learn from those people. You want it from the guy that actually is able to have a life outside of just the work and has been able to do it multiple times. So if it's not Ross, then find someone else. But like, I'm glad and happy that, to call you friend and to call you mentor, and to know that you do have that process and you have been able to help us. So again, I know you're not asking me to do this, but I would say, like, you don't have to work with Ross, but figure out someone that has the exact same stack and then work with that person. Otherwise, you're literally just gambling on whether or not you'll reinvent getting to 7 figures, which is completely unnecessary and will probably take you 10 years.
It's okay. They can work with me.
There you go.
Or they don't have to, but you're right. I think that finding a mentor, even just having someone to hold you accountable, it's like, humans are so naturally lazy and confused.
Right.
Like, your natural tendency is to do less unless someone else is like, do more.
Yeah.
But okay, cool. Well, thanks so much for coming on here, man. I think this was crazy valuable. And obviously I want to be doing these interviews for people because I had the same experience when I started my business that you had, and probably the person who's watching this is having the same experience. And it's like you said, there's a roadmap. And the beginning of that roadmap is called having a shitty job and not having any time and being confused and like being not focused. That's the starting point. And so we want to make these interviews valuable and share some stories, let people know that it's definitely possible. It is definitely achievable. So where can people find more about you if they want to learn more about you on social media or your website or anything like that?
Yeah, feel free to connect anytime. So on the best platform would be LinkedIn. So my name is Juan, Juan. My middle name is Felipe. I'm there like with my full name so you can find me easily. So Juan Felipe Campos, Campos. So you can find me on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to connect with anybody. And then my website is growthmasters.io. Growthmasters.io. So yeah, thanks so much for like having me over, Ross. Like I'm always happy to tell people about you. If you want to, you can DM me. We can have a conversation about Ross. Yeah, just throwing that out there.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Cool. Thank you.